Yeah? Wow. So I guess it takes about a minute or so. Okay, so how's it going? What did you do this afternoon or this morning? Okay, so when you say presenter mode, this is, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, bye. Okay, thanks, Sarah. Bye-bye. Okay, everyone, so I can see you're starting to come in, and thank you for coming on to the webinar here. I was just on the phone with my assistant, Sarah. So, and she's there. Hey, Sarah. So if you just want to start to introduce yourself, you will see a chat box there. And if you can start to tell me who you are and where you're from. And we have a couple of minutes left before we go live. Hi, Sarah. So those of you who don't know this is my first webinar, and Sarah is my coach and assistant, and she's helping me out today. Sarah, is the lighting okay, or should I take it off? Hey, Judy. And where are you from, Judy? Okay, it's 7 o'clock and we're going to start here. Well, my name is Zaheen, and I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Where I am, I'm in central Alberta, Canada, and it's 26 Celsius out there, so it's nice and warm. And I'm sure that some of you would love to be outside on the deck, having a drink or something. But again, thank you for taking the time to be with me for this hour. So I'm excited to be here today to share with you communication styles. And in a minute or so, I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm going to be talking to you today. You can also see my information right at the bottom here, and my website is on there. So without further ado, let me just share my screen with you. Okay, Judy is from Edmonton, Joette from Leduc. Ooh, I like that, just around the corner, which is nice. Okay, so communication styles and improving working relationships. I mean, who wouldn't want to know how to reduce conflict and improve working relationships? So the agenda for today, we're going to go through an introduction where I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. What is rapport? We'll go through scores from your assessment. So as I mentioned before, if you have had the chance to do the assessment, great. We'll share the scores. If you haven't, that's fine. You can look at the link on the chat box and be able to go in there, download the assessment, and do it after the webinar. We'll jump then into the 4 styles of communication and how to incorporate the learning from those 4 styles to reduce conflict. All right. So, well, let's just go back and tell you a little bit about me, right? Introduction. So I moved to Canada at the age of 15 from Kenya without my parents. But I came with my 17-year-old sister then. And in a couple of years, she left and I was on my own. But I went with her and then I came back because I loved being here. I loved the people, the education system, and this is where I really liked to be. However, a lot of people say, oh my God, you were only 15 and you came by yourself and with your sister, how did you manage? Honestly, it was okay, but we had a lot of help from family. But a lot of people don't know this, that I had a speech impediment. I stuttered. And so I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today with you. However, now I'm a speaker, I do workshops, now I'm doing, webinars, which is, just so you know, a new platform for me because I just want to reach more and more people through the webinar system. So here I am and I'm doing what I love and I want to share this with you. The reason I call my system the resilience reflex is because I help and show people how to easily embrace change and bounce back using my 3-step system. And that 3-step system is called the resilience reflex. So if you want to know more about me, make sure you go on my website. Okay, so that's all about me, and we'll learn more about you in this webinar. Okay, so rapport, let's just go into this. So a lot of people ask us, what is rapport? And I want you to think about rapport as 2 words, harmonious relationship. Again, that's harmonious relationship. And whenever you think about a harmonious relationship, it's all about reducing conflict, improving working relationships, and making sure that everyone is having a good time with each other. And that can be in your workplace with your coworkers. If you're a manager, this would be something that you want to create rapport with your employees. If you're at home, you want to create rapport with your spouse, even with your kids, because everyone has their own style of communicating. So for example, in my house, my husband is a high visual and he's also a kinesthetic. So we have the similar kind of communication style, and my mother is also visual, but and she's also very kinesthetic, but she's too much. Like, every day, I think she wants a hug at least 100 times. And sometimes we have to say, okay, enough. So this is something that you'll start to recognize as I go along today. But to give you some more idea about rapport, let's do some multiple choice questions. And I want you to tell me what you think the answer is. So as I go along, make sure you write the answer in the chat box. It'll be A, B, or C. Okay? So here you go. Number 1, how long does it take to build rapport? A, 30 seconds. B, 1 meeting. C, 2 to 3 meetings. So what is the answer? A, B, or C? You can write that in the chat box now. Yes, so the answer is C, 2 to 3 meetings. It takes time to build trust, so that's why that's the answer. Number 2, how long does it take to break rapport? A, after 1 meeting. B, instantly. C, never. Again, write your answer in the chat box. A, B, or C. And the answer is B, instantly. So I'm sure that you have come across a time where you have built this relationship, whether it's with a coworker, whether it's with a friend, or even a business. And this happens, I'm sure you've watched the news and you've heard about how this one reputable company has done so well, but then all of a sudden something has happened and they broke rapport instantly, and now you feel like you don't want to get into that business. For example, a long time ago when Jack in the Box had the biggest I think it was foodborne illness outbreak, a lot of people had to find a way to trust them again. But they instantly broke rapport, and the branding that they had was completely shattered and had to be rebuilt again. And now the last question on rapport. How long does it take to repair it? A, instantly. B, 3 months. C, a long time. So put your answer in the chat box. A, B, and if you haven't guessed it already, the answer is actually C, a long time. Like I mentioned before, it takes time for people to build that trust. Okay, so now let's dive into the 4 styles of communication. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that people communicate or receive information and give out information in these 4 styles. And if they don't receive it in that manner, then conflict occurs, okay? And these 4 ways are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and digital. So a visual individual learns what are shown to them. So for example, if you're a teacher, you want to make sure that you show some pictures. If you have, like for example, my husband is a high visual, so I can remember this one time when I had gone to a course and I came back home and I started to explain it to him. And he just had this glazed look on his face, and I instantly realized, of course, he's a visual. So I started to draw what I learned and do a mind map, and in 3 minutes he got it. So now you understand that knowing the style of communication really helps to move information from you to the other person instantly and in a great way. This is also where, for example, if you are giving driving directions to a visual person, you don't want to say things like 50th, then turn right on 47. When you get to 62 Street, make sure you go northwest. They will just, tell you, I don't get it. Tell me landmarks. And that's how you have to talk to a visual, is like this. Well, go down all the way to the Esso gas station, then take a right, and you'll go down to the 3rd set of lights where you'll see Tim Hortons, and then you'll take a left. So that's how you want to talk to them, is in landmarks. Let's go to auditory. Auditory are the listeners and the talkers. They love to listen and they love to talk. So I had a coworker who would come from a holiday and would sit in my office and would go into detail to talk about his holiday. And believe me, for me being a visual, that's painful. but he's my coworker and I want to build rapport. So I would sit for a while and I would listen to what he had to say, and he felt heard. Okay, so this is what you need to understand about auditory person. Kinesthetic, they learn by doing and touching. So for example, if you have someone at your work or even at home who is very kinesthetic, they will tell you, show me and let me do it so I know that I'm doing it right. Those are the kinds of things they will say. Your digital people are your thinkers or logical people. They are the ones who will want the facts and the evidence. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you remember the Vulcans, you know, they always want something that's logical. And those would be your digital thinkers. Okay, so now let's go to your score that you did in your handout. And you will notice that you have a high score and then a low score. Your highest score is your preferred style of communication. So mine was a V, closely followed by a K. So visual, kinesthetic. And then my least preferred style, which is my lowest score, was digital and is digital. Okay? So some people ask me, what happens if they're tied? Like, what happens if the first two are tied? Well, then you can be both at the same time. Now, I'm not saying you can't be all four. I'm saying we always use all four, but we prefer a style in the way we receive information and in the way we give information. So why don't you tell me your style now? And if you haven't done it, that's fine, but it'll be interesting to know what you are. So who would like to go first while I have a sip of water? And while you're doing that, I'll get to the next slide. So as you're putting in your information, I want you to realize that as we go along today, you're going to recognize your style as we go along in the things that I'm going to share with you today. You're going to easily be able to understand other people's style. In fact, as I go along, you'll say, that sounds like my partner. That sounds like my coworker. That sounds like my boss. But then you'll also, the idea is to understand these styles and then match them. That's how you create rapport. And the third thing, yes, like I say, create rapport. So that's what you're going to do. Okay. So let's start. If you want to go to the last page of your handout, and also take a pen right now, and make sure that you are ready to take these notes, because I want you to write the information that I give you as well. Remember, kinesthetics, right to write, but I also want you to keep this list so that you can practice after we're done this webinar for the rest of the days, because it took me a while to implement this because I had to practice and watch and listen to those words. Just so you know that anytime I do a speech or a workshop, I'm always using all four styles. Why? Because I want to connect with the audience. It's very, very important that I use all four styles. Otherwise, I'll miss a lot of the audience who are not the style I am. Okay, so now that I've given you some time to take pen and to go to the last page, go to the row that says common characteristics, and under the column of visual, start to write these kinds of things that I'm going to let you know here. So what are the characteristics of a visual learner? They learn quickly, they memorize by creating pictures, they value time, and they get bored easily. Okay. So now think of someone like that you know. Common characteristics of an auditory person. They're good storytellers. So remember I was saying about my coworker who would come after a holiday and would tell me long stories because they love to do that. They love to brainstorm. They listen intently. So this is something I learned after knowing about the 4 styles of communication, and it's this. When they are in my seminar, I know the ones who are auditory because they don't take notes. They're such good listeners that they are able to take in everything and be able to remember it for days after. And they talk or hum to themselves, and they're very detailed. So the person who talks to themselves while they work or hum down the hallways, those guys or those gals are auditory. Okay, let's go to the next style, and that is kinesthetic. So again, I'll just repeat this so you have it written down. They're good storytellers. They love to brainstorm. They listen intently, and they talk or hum to themselves, and they're very detailed. Okay, kinesthetic. They learn through doing. They connect with others really well. So, you know the people who like to hug a lot? Those are kinesthetic people. And the ones who want to know about you, like how your day went and what you did, they are the kinesthetic people because they really want to connect with you at a deeper level. And they speak very slowly because, again, they need to feel their words. They're the feeling kind of people. And like I said, yes, they need to also, by the way, they will make decisions based on their gut feeling. So if something doesn't feel right, they're not going to go for it. But if something feels really strong for them, they're going to go for it. So if you know someone who's kinesthetic in your home, and this to men, whenever I'm doing these kind of workshops at an organization and they want to know about how to reduce conflict, I always tell the men, hey, if your wife, say, is truly kinesthetic, and if she feels something is really wrong with the decision that you're making, listen to her because you want that knowledge. Okay? So I'm just going to repeat this. They learn through doing. They connect with others well. They see and they need to feel if they're making the right decision or the wrong decision. Common characteristics of a digital. They are logical and rational people. They learn with facts and evidence. So do you have someone in your workplace or in your business or at home who just wants, what are the facts? So if it's in business, people want to know numbers, right? So those are the digital people. And like I said, they can be detailed as well, like the auditory style, but it depends. You just have to know how to go into making sure that they are actually digital, which I'm going to go through more. Okay? So let's go now to the next row, which is the commonly used words. And you can write down these words as I go along them, and I'm going to give you examples. Some commonly used words for a visual would be look. I see what you're saying. Show me what you're talking about. I need to focus on what you're saying. A lot of the times when you go on websites, you may see things, or when you read some kind of marketing material, they'll say things like, visualize this, you are walking down the beach. That's really good marketing because they want you to picture that. Is this clear? Are you getting some clarity from this information? Picture this. Picture what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? So all these kinds of words, when you listen to someone using those words all the time, you know that they're highly visual. Salespeople are trained to listen to these kinds of words so that they can match your communication style and build rapport with you. Okay? And that's why the good salesperson will listen and will understand what you're saying, and then ask you some questions to find out more, and then go ahead to give you some answers. Commonly used words by auditory. So they'll say things like, yeah, I hear you. Do you want to repeat that again? Because I think it's very important that other people know what you're saying. Listen. Listen to what I'm saying. That sounds great. Or you'll hear them always say, sounds good, sounds good. Say, how about resonate? This really resonates with me. Idea is their #1 favorite word. I love that idea. Whenever you use the word idea, they're all riled up because they want to know what that idea is so they can brainstorm with you. They love it. Okay? So hear, repeat, listen, sound, say, resonate, idea. Okay. The commonly used words for kinesthetic is feel. This feels good. Or they'll say, this fits perfectly in this project. Walk me through this again. So walk me through. So it's like holding hands and walking them through. Got a handle. I have a handle on this now. I connect with you, or I'm connecting with the audience. Catch you later, right? If they're saying goodbye to you, they'll say catch you later, as if they're going to catch you, but that's their kinesthetic word. And then grasp. I get a grasp of that now. That makes sense, but I can grasp the concept. So again, when you hear those kinds of words from a person, you know that they're highly kinesthetic. Okay? And now the last one would be commonly used words for digital. They will say things like, makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. I think this is what I'm going to do. And if you ask them something, or say something to them, I know is their best answer. Describe this to me to exactly tell me what you want. Prove it. Remember, they want facts and figures, so prove it. Figure it out. Okay, let's figure this out, because they want to be logical and rational. Someone will say, let me process this. So again, they're being very rational and logical. You will also see sometimes they'll say things like, first, I want this. Second is this. Third, fourth. So they'll have a list of items. So they like to do that as well. So make sure that when they are digital, those are the kinds of words they'll use. Make sense, think, I know, describe, prove it, process, first, second, third. Okay, so now let me ask you, we're going to do a rapid fire round, and I have some multiple choice questions because I want to make sure that you understand this information. Okay, number 1, if someone were to say, your story resonates with me because I too had a similar experience. So go ahead and write your answer. Is it A, kinesthetic, or B, auditory? Write your answer in the chat box. So the answer is B, auditory, because we have the word resonates with me. Okay, next one. I'm thinking about my future career and I have it figured out. First, I'll talk to dash, dash, dash. Which style would this be? A, digital, B, visual. Okay. Does anyone have issues with the chat box at all, or because I'm not getting any answers in? So well, the answer is A, digital. Okay, next question. Number 3, I went on your website and it appears that you have changed your brand logo. Would that style be A, auditory, or B, visual? Who can tell me the answer? I went on your website and it appears that you have changed your brand logo. The answer is it's B, visual. Okay, so I hope this has kind of helped you with the idea of when you listen to people using these kinds of words, you need to pick these up and know what style they are. When I do this, when I do the rapid fire round, they get chocolates. Now I'm sorry, I know I have no chocolates to give you here, but if you got those right, make sure you go into your pantry and have a small piece of chocolate, okay? All right, next thing we'll talk about are the gifts and the challenges for each style. So again, you can understand what kind of people you are working with and how to build rapport with them. In the end, remember, you want to reduce conflict and build rapport. So the gift for a visual are that they're big picture people. They can see the picture done of any project or any idea. They just have this gift of having it seen done. They're great time managers. So what does that mean? Well, when you start a meeting, you start it on time. When you end a meeting, you end it on time. They don't like going overtime. So even if you're going for an interview, for example, of course you want to be on time because that's one of the things that they look for. But again, they may base their decision also on how early you are or how on time you are, okay? And they're great leaders. Some of the challenges are that they're very impatient, of course, because they value time. So have you talked to someone and they say to you, okay, get to the point? Well, they're visual. Whereas like if I were to tell my coworker, okay, I get it. Can you get to the point, please? Okay. There I'm being impatient and I'm breaking rapport. Okay, there's a better way to do it. You could say, you know what, I have to go to another call or meeting in about 2 minutes. Can we talk later? Or I would love to talk over coffee or something like that, where you're not feeling rushed. Okay. They tend to skip details. So just because they're big picture details, and that's not good either. They tend to rush others. Like I mentioned, they'll say, so can you get to the point? And they hate going overtime in meetings. And they hate changing schedule without enough notice. So say if they had a meeting tomorrow and someone emailed them in the morning and say, hey, that, meeting that we're going to have has been canceled. They don't like that. They want enough notice so they can make plans to do something else. Okay? Okay, let's go to auditory now. Some of the gifts are that they're good writers and speakers, they're good editors, and they're great innovators. Why? Because they love ideas and they love to brainstorm. So now some of the challenges are they don't like getting interrupted. So, before they even start with their story or with their explanation, maybe when you're in a meeting, so this is great for teamwork. When you know someone is auditory, now that you know the words that they use, some of the rules that you can apply before you start a meeting would be things like, if someone has something to say about this project, please keep it down to 2 to 3 minutes so that everyone has a chance to talk. So those kinds of rules will help because the auditory, people will keep those rules in check. They're very good at that. Okay. Or if it's one-on-one, you just have to tell them, hey, you know what? I have somewhere to go. Can we maybe put a time for 10 minutes where you can tell me everything about your holiday or everything about your project or everything about what is bothering you? And again, give them a time because they will keep their time. They're really good at that. They will withdraw and even get angry if they feel that they're not getting heard. Okay. Again, there was another coworker who is auditory and felt he wasn't getting heard, and he got really mad one day. So these are some things that create conflict in the workplace, right? They have strong opinions too, and they may hurt others. So they themselves don't know this about themselves, and so it's okay if you point it out to them. It won't hurt them because they need to know this, and you need to understand that this is how they are. Okay, let's go to kinesthetic now. Some of the gifts are that they are supportive, very loyal, and they're a team player. So these guys are good to have in a team. You know why? Because into a meeting, they will connect with everyone and they will ask them, so how did your day go? They are the ones who will bring the coffee and donuts. They're the ones who will make everyone feel comfortable. And you want that kind of person there because when the team breaks apart, and that can happen, you want the kinesthetic person in there to bring. Okay, so very important to have them. Some of the challenges of a kinesthetic person. They get confused when they're approached with too many choices. So one option or second option, not 3, 4, 5 options, because they have to get in check with their feeling. Remember, it's all about the feeling. So make sure you just give them 2 options. They need time to complete the task because it has to feel right. And when you rush them, they don't like that and they feel they haven't done a good job. So make sure you give them time to do that. And unfortunately, kinesthetic people, which is a good thing actually, but sometimes it's not, is that they avoid confrontation or conflict because they like to be happy with everyone. So that's a good and a bad, right? And they have to figure that out on their own. So, but otherwise, make sure that they're around you because they make you feel good. and they give you great hugs and make you feel loved. So it's good to have them. Okay, let's go to digital now. Some of their gifts are that they're problem solvers. So if you have a problem at work, or maybe that you're doing a project, or you're having an issue with maybe a coworker, or something like that, they are the ones to go to and just kind of talk on the side and ask them, so what would you do in this situation? And they would give you an answer, and it's up to you whether you want to choose it or not, but they're pretty good that way. They're great planners, by the way, because they know how to prioritize tasks well. So event planners, they're great at doing that. If they have to look after a big meeting, they're the ones who are good at planning things out. Okay, so that's a gift for them. Some of the challenges are that they're very slow to trust others. And I believe it's because they need to process the information that they are getting from you. So they will take time to trust you. Now, as a coach, if I get a client who is digital, I can know right away that they are that communication style because it takes them a long time to trust me, and I have to keep on building rapport with them. And I do that because by using the words, by matching their body language, by matching their style, so that they can trust me again. And I have a client like that right now, who is extremely digital. She wants the facts, she wants the numbers, she wants to know where I got my research from. Very, very technical and rational. So it's good that I have her because it keeps me on my toes. They can be stubborn because they're very logical and work with facts. So let me be open with you right now. There was one time when this client came in and she was wondering why she wasn't meeting the numbers that I had told her that she could. And she became very agitated, and we almost had a little argument. But then I stopped and I told her something in her own style, and it's almost like her eyes popped because now she understood where I was coming from. And see how that worked really well, that I used her own language to show her, look, here's the evidence, look at this evidence. And then I showed her on like paper, look at how far you've come, and that was the evidence. So now that she had all that evidence visually, I was telling her about it, she completely calmed down, and it really worked. So make sure again that you know who you're talking to, what style. Because they're slow to trust, you need to get information out of them. So you'll find that digital people are very closed, but that's not because they are snobbish or no, they just are slow to trust, and you need to get information out of them. Okay, so another rapid fire round. What kind of job do you think a visual person would pick or would be really good at? A CEO, B, editor. So you can put your answer in the chat room, but I'll also give you the answer. It's actually A, CEO. What do you think an auditory person would be good at? What kind of a job? Remember auditory, listen and talker. A, massage therapist, B, lawyer. And the answer is B, lawyer. Kinesthetic person, do you think they would be a healer and bodywork person, or B, a policymaker? What kind of a job? Yes, for sure, A, healer and bodywork person. And digital, what would they be? A, salesperson, or B, accountant? So digital, like facts and numbers. So yes, for sure, B, accountant. So now you're starting to understand what kind of people or careers these kinds of styles would get into. Okay, So let's go now to things that would help you communicate with them better. And it would be things like how to recognize them, because nowadays, people communicate more with email. Of course, phone calls have always been there, but also text messages is another way to recognize someone's style. So for example, how would a visual end their phone call? So remember the words that I gave you. You just need to use the figure out how would a visual end their phone call. So they would say things like, see ya, even though they're on the phone with you and they are maybe halfway across the country. Like, Sarah is in Kelowna, and if I tell her, okay, see ya, well, I'm not going to see her anytime soon, am I? But because I'm highly visual, I may say that to her. Okay, so that's how they would say it. Same with an email. See you later. Okay. How would a kinesthetic end their email or call? They would say things like, catch you later, even though they may not catch you at all. Or they would, and I'm sure you've seen this in emails, they would go XOXO, so hugs and kisses, right? I know I end my emails that I send out to my subscriber list, and I say hugs Zaheen, because I am kinesthetic too. And I like to give and share, so that's how I'll end my emails. By the way, the kinesthetic emails are very flowery as well. So they'll say things like, oh, I love doing this and I like doing that. So just yesterday, I got a hold of a new editor that I'm going to be working with, who is going to edit my book. And when she introduced herself, her email was long, and she used very flowery, language, whereas I was like, okay, this is what I need. What do you need from me? Tell me more. That's all I did. So you see how different our emails are. But of course, when I build rapport with her, I will make sure, like today, she said, I will make sure that I will send my sample to you. And I'm going, oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Let's connect on the phone. And so when I will use words like connect, because I know she's kinesthetic. Okay, so I'm giving you all these examples so you understand how from today to start implementing these kinds of things. So how would an auditory end their email or call? Again, auditory is the listening part. So they will say things like, I hear ya, or if they end their call, they'll say, sounds good, click, right? Their emails can be pretty long and very detailed. I had a supervisor who would have these long, detailed emails explaining everything. And it was painful to read. And I would just scan through it because I just wanted to know the main parts. But, again, that's his style. So there you go. Digital is very interesting. How would they end their email or call? Honestly, they would say bye. No XOXO, not see you later, catch you later, or sounds good, just bye. Or they'll just sign off their name. So, if it's Zaheen, they'll just say Zaheen, nothing more. Okay, so now you know what kind of people they are. All right, let's go with questions that stimulate a visual. So we have about 14 minutes left or so. And here what I want to do is I want you to take the time to ask questions while I go through this. And so by the time I see the question in the chat room, then I'm able to answer your questions. So please go ahead right now and ask any questions you have, as well as we'll go through the questions that would stimulate each style. So again, using the words that we discussed, and now you have that in your handout because you wrote them down, right? Here's a couple of examples of how you could stimulate. So if, for example, if I'm a kinesthetic and I'm talking to a visual person, I will use questions such as, how does this look to you? Is this clear? Okay. So usually when I'm in a workshop, I will ask the audience to come up with their examples and tell me how they could stimulate a visual. You're more than welcome to do that in the chat room, and I invite you to do that so that you can practice with me while I'm here. Okay? Auditory, the questions that would stimulate them would be things like, you would say to them would be, how does that sound? Or, do you like my idea? Remember, they love the word idea. And if you really want to brainstorm your project, pick an auditory person. Promise they'll give you the best ideas ever. Okay, so how does that sound? What do you think about my idea? Does that resonate with you? Okay. Then the next thing that would be kinesthetic, the questions that would stimulate them would be things like, do you relate to this? So for example, if I'm a highly visual and I'm talking to a kinesthetic, I don't want to use words like, do you see what I'm saying? I want to use words like, do you relate to this? Are you getting a handle on this? What do you think about, oh, I just missed my train of thought, but you know, things, those kinds of words. Use the words that are above in the words that are commonly used, okay? Questions that would stimulate a digital person would be, what do you think? Again, use the list of commonly used words that I gave you. What do you think about this project? And if you want to problem solve, they are the people to go to, okay? Can you describe that to me? Does that make sense? You will notice that when I do a speech or a workshop, I'll use these kinds of questions to stimulate my audience. I'll say things like, does that make sense to you? And that's for the digital person. Or I'll say, you know, or I'll go back to the next example and I'll say, can you relate to this? So now I'm speaking to the kinesthetics. And then I'll say things like, how does that sound to all of you? So you see how I'm using all these 4 styles so that I can connect with my audience. Okay, so how do you use these all 4 styles to reduce conflict? Well, you practice by listening and calibrating to their style. Like I said, it takes practice. It's not easy at first, but if you take the list of commonly used words, the gifts and the challenges that I have shared with you today, take it to work, keep it by your desk, okay, or keep it at home as well so that you can start to practice with your own people at home. You will start to create rapport with your own people at home, take it to work, and you'll start to create rapport as well there. But it's like any muscle, right? When you practice or when you work that muscle, it becomes stronger and stronger. So same with this communication style. When you practice, you become really, really good at it. You always, I want to start with the most commonly used words and match their style. That's the easiest way to do it. So for example, a salesperson, and I'm just taking the example of a salesperson because they are so trained in doing this. So I'm actually right now looking for a car because I got into an accident in January. I'm fine, but my car was a write-off. So what happened was we started looking, and I went into a dealership, and I'm not going to say which one, but I went into a dealership and we started to talk to a salesperson. Now, being a visual, what do you think I want to do? I want to go look at the different models of cars that they have. But what he did instead, he broke rapport with me just by telling me to sit down and fill out a form. I wasn't there to fill out a form. I was there to look at cars. But he wanted my information first before we did anything. Now, do you think I would go and ask for him again? No. But if he would have gone into asking me more about why I was looking for a car, what did I want in a car, what was the most important thing, I think then I would have been able to build rapport, and he would have, told me, well, I think these two models would be good for you. So now take to about a month later, so just last month, I went to another dealership looking at the cars there. And I really created rapport with the salesperson there, because what he started to do was, I went into his office and he started to ask me, so what are you looking for, Zaheen? And I said, well, I'm looking for a car because I drive a lot. I want something with good mileage that's a 4-wheel drive because I'm on the country roads a lot. This is what and then he goes, okay, so this is out. I think these two would be the best models for you. Why don't I go get the keys and we can go look at them? Now you see how easily he created rapport with me, and I really wanted to get a car from him if ever I decide what kind of car I want. I'm still confused because I'm still looking. But I think in the end, if it was the car that I wanted, I would have gone to him. Okay, so I hope that example really helped you understand why it's important to match styles and build rapport. The way you also want to reduce conflict, because you want to make sure you respect the other style's gifts and challenges. I have to respect coworkers of mine who are very auditory, very digital. Like I said, I had a supervisor and I had a coworker who were extremely auditory, but I also had a manager who was completely digital. And I want to build rapport with them, and I have great rapport with them. In fact, when there's anything, like if they are stuck in anything, they will come and ask me, so what do you think about this, Zaheen, right? And it's interesting that they would do that because I didn't have any kind of management position. So it was interesting that they would come and ask me. So that is something that, because I respected their gifts and challenges, they felt comfortable with me enough to come and ask me questions. And then the last thing that I really want to reiterate is, if you have a team at work, we always work in teams or we work with a coworker, right? You want to have all 4 styles in a team or a project. Why? Because those 4 styles bring their own gifts and challenges. You don't want to have all kinesthetics in a team or project, because it'll take them a long time to get the work done because they need to feel that it's right. You never want all auditory people, because everything will be so detailed that they'll never see the big picture. You never want all visuals in there, because again, they only see the big picture and they skip the details. You want the detail people in there. Okay, so make sure you have all 4 styles in every team or project. When you're at home, you want to make sure you create rapport by understanding your spouse's style, by understanding your children or your child's style, so that you can build rapport with them so there's no conflict in the household as well. I'm not trying to brag, but my husband and I get great compliments about our relationship. We've only been married for 15 years, but we've had people come to us up to now and say, you guys behave as if you're newly married, like you're so good with each other. Not only that, we work together in a business now for 5 years, and we have such a good relationship when we run the business that people tell us, don't you guys fight about it? Or, don't you guys like get mad at each other? When you see yourselves at business, you come home and we're like, no, we love working with each other. And it's funny because for other people to hear that, because all they hear is, oh, I've heard really horror stories about husband and wives working in the same business. But to us, because I think we know about the communication styles and how to build rapport. That's why we're able to have such a great working and intimate relationship. Okay, wow, that was good timing. So we're almost at the end. Now, I know some of you may not have had the chance to put any comments or questions on here, but here's my email, info@zahinnanji.com. I'm on Facebook, like me, Twitter. Also make sure that you read my blogs or get onto my list so you get my blog post every week, because I put things like that. And I also want to acknowledge my mentors who taught me this stuff. And it's Michael Lozier, author of The Law of Connection, and Gail Watt, who taught me NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So again, info@zahinnanji.com. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to come on live. So you can see me. There we go. Okay. So I hope you had a great time listening to today's information, and I hope you got some takeaway from here. My next webinar, I hope is going. We're kind of thinking in June, but we'll see how this first one went, and we'll go from there. You can also join my community on Google+. It's called the Resilience Reflex Community. When you search for that on Google+, you have to ask to join in because it's private, and I'll invite you in, okay? And all the best, and keep in touch with me. Like I said, zahinnanji.com, get into my email list, and I'll make sure that I connect with you. And with that, talk to you later. Bye-bye.